When I regained consciousness, the room was brightly lit, and I could feel somebody manipulating my body, but I felt no pain, only heightened mental awareness. Was I dead? Is this what dying feels like? I could detect wires and tubes all around. I had been in a medically induced coma for 3 days. When I eventually opened my eyes, my family was gathered by my bedside, my wife Helen was at my right, and my 5 children surrounding the bed. My recollection was blurry, and I couldn't remember why I was in the hospital or what had happened. My lovely wife looked at me and said, "Darling, you really scared us this time, but you'll be all right now." I looked at Helen and asked what had happened. She mentioned that one of the stents used during your triple bypass surgery failed. The graft required a stent a month later. Unfortunately, it was too weak and folded around the stent, blocking blood flow. Suddenly, parts of my memory from the previous year reappeared. Following my annual visit, my doctor discovered blockages around my heart and promptly proposed triple bypass surgery, a complicated open heart procedure. Blood vessels from other places of my body were used to replace those that had become damaged or clogged. About a month after the surgery, additional tests revealed that one transplant had not healed as well as the other 2, so a stent was put to strengthen it. Until now, we had thought everything was good. Due to the issues, I had been unable to work for about 6 months. I attentively followed my doctor's directions, shedding weight. I'm joining a gym for regular exercise and carefully managing my nutrition. My wife Helen was my constant support throughout the voyage. When I exercised, she joined me and followed my nutritional recommendations. Over the next 6 months, I lost pound 40, while Helen, now a fit 49-year-old, lost pound 20 and looked as gorgeous as she did on our wedding day, with no wrinkles or excess fat visible. I met Helen during our college years. She was an 18-year-old freshman and I was a 20-year-old junior. Within a few weeks, we had become exclusive. The next year, we got an apartment together. I was about to graduate that year and Helen was starting her 3rd year of college. I persuaded my parents that getting an MBA was necessary for getting a successful job, and they quickly agreed. This decision kept Helen and me together until she finished her degree. By then, I had also received my master's degree. So on a warm June day following our graduation, Helen and I married. Our marriage was ideal. We shared everything, not just because we had similar interests, but because we actually wanted to be together. It's what they call love. In the first 7 years, I believe we were blessed with 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. Following the last one, I opted to get a vasectomy. We were always profoundly steeped in family values, and our children were equally loyal to us as we were to them. We had a busy family life while working hard to be debt-free. One of us was always transporting the kids to various activities such as karate, judo, ballet, dancing, piano, baseball, soccer, or whatever they fancied. Not all of them were athletes, but they all had a good time and acquired some essential life lessons. Before we knew it, they were off to college one by one, and then they began to marry. Helen and I took on all of the college debts and wedding expenses because we wanted to give our children the best possible start in life while avoiding debt. While we had saved for these milestones, I couldn't help but feel financially stressed knowing I'd be in debt for the next decade. Nonetheless, Helen and I were still young, with plenty of working years left to save for our retirement. We did not regret a single dollar spent on our children's education or weddings. The investment was certainly worth it, although I understood we had missed out on lavish vacations to the Caribbean and Europe. I've never regretted the money we invested to provide our children a solid foundation in life. After my father retired, I took over his successful insurance company in Plano, Texas, which employed 3 brokers and 2 office employees. They all remained occupied. Helen waited until our youngest child began school before joining a pharmaceutical company in Dallas. She worked as a sales representative, visiting local doctors' offices to promote new treatments and deliver samples to their patients. Helen was a natural extrovert, making her an ideal candidate for the job. Her physical looks did not harm either. Standing 5 feet 9 inches tall, she weighed roughly 140 pounds before starting to work out with me. I thought she looked fantastic, but with some diet and exercise, she was able to return to her college weight of 120 pounds. Our love life has always been dynamic and satisfying. We've tried many different things together and are constantly open to one another's new ideas. Neither of us has ever felt the desire to be unfaithful, and we've never even considered the notion. I'm not a jealous person, and I've occasionally let others dance with Helen when the opportunity presented. Helen did not, however, allow any of these men to become too familiar. We're not huge on dancing, but we do it for workplace Christmas parties and other business functions. My name is Edward, although most people just call me Ed. Unlike Helen, I have undergone some changes throughout the years. My hair is gradually graying, and I've gained weight by allowing myself to get out of shape through exercise and dieting. I've altered my body. Does this make me a lousy husband? Not at all. I consider myself a romantic and Helen's devoted soulmate. We still have romantic outings every Friday and Saturday. Every week she receives fresh flowers in her office. And while our love life has slowed due to my heart troubles, I make every effort to keep Helen happy. Helen and I work hard to make our marriage thrive, and I believe we do an amazing job. Simply said, we have a fantastic life together, which is built on our love for one another. After my family had left, I realized I was in the ICU and would be there for several days. The physicians were quite concerned about potential brain injury and insisted on continual monitoring. I didn't understand the link between brain damage and my cardiac issue, but I was too weak to ask or argue. My family returned that evening and spent a few hours with me when Helen glanced at me. I could see sadness in her eyes. I told her that I would be fine and that there was no need to be sad. But she stayed mute. A police officer paid us a visit the next morning. I asked whether I had done a crime, and he chuckled and said no. You did not breach any laws. I was the first person to respond after you triggered the alarm. You performed an important role in saving my life. I will always be grateful. No, it's just part of my responsibilities. I happened to be close and arrived as quickly as possible. My memory is foggy. Could you please explain what happened so I can share what I know and you can fill in the gaps? Approximately 2 a.m. last Friday night, I got an alert from your house. Alarm? I arrived at the location in minutes, waiting for assistance because we suspected a break-in that had triggered the alarm. The alarm provider attempted to reach you, first via your house phone, then your mobile phone, and finally your wife's phone. Only your wife responded, but she was in Denver and unaware of the scenario. She indicated that you should be at home and directed us back to you. I began checking the house for signs of a break-in, but my flashlight revealed no evidence of such. I gazed through the windows, eventually arriving at the back of the home. I saw you unconscious on the kitchen floor. I had to break in to find you, and after a cursory inspection, I feared you'd had a heart attack. I quickly called 911 and began CPR on you. The fire department arrived first, and since they are all experienced medical technicians, I let them take over your care. Eventually, an ambulance arrived, and you were quickly transferred to the hospital for medical treatment. I informed my workplace that I had to break into your home since your wife was in Denver and you were in the hospital. They asked me to remain at the house until the door could be properly secured. A carpenter was summoned to secure the door with plywood, and I also called the alarm provider to deactivate it. Before leaving your residence, I attempted to clean up the kitchen, which had been left slightly untidy by the medical technicians and ambulance team during the pandemonium. I discovered your cell phone and am now returning it to you. That is all the information I have on the incident, including the specifics provided by the officer. I was able to fill in some of the story's gaps. I recall waking up with horrible chest pains and slumping against the refrigerator while attempting to reach for water and an aspirin. The alarm panel happened to be nearby, and I managed to seek assistance by hitting the panic button. I crouched down, understanding the gravity of the situation, and attempted to call my wife, Helen, over FaceTime with the command. Hello, Siri. Helen, it's time for some FaceTime. Within moments, an undressed Helen appeared on TV, asking what was wrong. However, by that time, the alarm was blaring, making contact impossible. It was unusual for her to undress while sleeping, but what frightened me the most was the appearance of an alien hand on her shoulder. That's when I lost consciousness, and I probably would have died if not for the deputies' determined actions. Later that afternoon, I finally got to meet with the heart doctor. During his earlier trips, I was either in a coma due to medication or sleeping. He told me, "Ed, you might be the luckiest man I've ever treated." I was taken aback and questioned, "Why is that?" "In the field of medicine, your survival should not have been feasible. I am unable to determine the duration. You were on the floor when the deputy discovered you, but by the time he arrived, it appeared you had stopped breathing. I'm not sure how much time has passed. Your brain was depleted of oxygen, but it was likely enough to cause damage, necessitating the 3-day coma. The deputy performed CPR to keep you alive until the fire department arrived and took over. During the ambulance ride to the hospital, the team encountered 2 situations in which it appeared you would not make it. On one case, they had to stop the ambulance and have both team members perform CPR before continuing. Even when you reached the hospital, your situation remained precarious. The graft placed last year eventually degraded. We had worries from the start, which is why we later used a stent. Unfortunately, the stent was ineffective. You need to realize that you'd done nothing wrong. You have faithfully followed my advice, reducing weight, exercising, and sticking to your diet. At the time, I'm not sure if there is any brain damage, but I believe you are free of such problems." Around that time, Helen arrived with a warm greeting and a kiss. My heart ached as I reflected on that tragic night. My dear wife of 30 years had betrayed me. I knew I couldn't face her or discuss the matter, so I pretended to be unable to speak. However, I was aware that we would eventually need to talk. How could I keep myself from admitting that I was aware of her infidelity? Was it really an affair? I had no answers. I was hospitalized for 3 weeks before being discharged with severe instructions to rest at home. Avoid lifting anything over £5 and refrain from intimate activity. Avoiding physical intimacy wasn't difficult because I wasn't sure I'd ever be in such a relationship with Helen again. They say that time heals wounds, but in my case, it appeared that my heart was physically healing while my inner suffering persisted. Part of my heart felt like it had a hole bored through it, and I wondered whether it could ever be healed. Helen took time off work to offer me with round-the-clock care. We had been together long enough for her to sense my misery and understand that something was genuinely troubling me. Finally, after about 3 weeks back home, we sat down to talk. "Ed, I've had the impression that you're carrying a heavy burden since your sickness. Could you please explain what's wrong?" "Yes. In fact, your actions could have exacerbated my position." "I am aware, and I want you to be honest with me, starting with why. What exactly are you talking about?" "I am aware that you have and may continue to have an affair." "That is ludicrous. How are you accusing me of that? Would you like me to give evidence? Are you that obtuse? Why can't you be honest and confess?" "There is no evidence, and I have never been unfaithful." "I don't understand how you could sit there and accuse me of something like this. You must be angry. Do you remember my FaceTime call on the night I became unwell? Do you recall a hand appearing on your shoulder and someone saying, 'Honey, is it about the alarm again?' I witnessed everything, and it will be seared on my memory forever." In truth, I had not heard a word. Helen was unaware of this truth. "Do you require further proof? You broke our marital vows by staging a fake vacation to see your girlfriend." "Yes, I know it was falsified because I contacted your HR department, who confirmed you took 2 personal days. I cannot express how much sorrow and misery you have caused me. I almost died, and all of this has slowed my recuperation. Do you understand why I'd been so aloof for the last 4 weeks? Once again, I'd like the complete tale, starting with why. If you choose not to respond, I expect you to pack your bags and depart." "And it is painful. Do you really want me to tell you?" "I've told you. If you choose not to respond, pack your bags and leave. I will not sit here and listen to your falsehoods." "All right, I will tell you, but I prefer not to. Please do not threaten me till I have revealed everything. If you want me to leave, I will." I sat there looking at her, waiting for her to continue. "I need to travel back 4 months to my company's holiday party.
Do you recall when you warned me about the guy who was too familiar with me when we were dancing?
I said, yes.
I was enraged and ready to confront him. Please do not tell me that you had an affair with him.
Rest assured, we did not have an affair. David is my immediate employer, and he has made overtures toward me since he started working in Dallas last autumn. I've consistently managed to deter his advances without incident.
I was and still am not interested in extramarital relationships. But I'm perplexed. Did you recently travel to Denver with him and spend 2 days and nights in the same hotel room?
Please tell me it was only a friendly vacation and nothing happened.
Helen groaned and asked, Ed?
Yes, we had a physical encounter.
I regret every single moment of the weekend.
I bet he's younger and in better shape.
I left a remark.
Yes, he is 15 years younger than us. 3 months ago, during my yearly appraisal, David asked about my future goals. He knew I'd been doing the same job for nearly 15 years and inquired if I planned to stay till retirement. You know, I've been dissatisfied with all of the driving in Dallas and the worsening traffic. He asked why I had not applied for a promotion. I mentioned that while I had applied for his position, they chose him from the Atlanta office. Then he stated that he was on the short list for a promotion, putting his position open once again. I indicated my earnest desire to advance. He questioned how far I was willing to go, so I inquired about his expectations.
He proposed an intimate connection and promised me his job in return.
My jaw fell open in surprise as I discovered Helen had been blackmailed and had unwillingly accepted to the man's terms. I warned him that such actions constituted blackmail and may result in severe consequences. He answered that it was solely between him and me, including no one else. I reiterated that I was happily married and had no intention of harming it in any manner. He informed me that all he wanted was one weekend, after which he would ensure my promotion.
Helen, how did you fall for that? For years, I've been asking you to quit your work. Our financial status does not require your revenue.
And due to my recent illness and present health concerns, you have taken unpaid leave. It may take us a little longer to pay off our bills, but we will get there.
Helen justified her decision, stating that despite not requiring the money, she enjoyed staying busy.
Furthermore, with the children's education fees and weddings, the extra money helped them pay off their debts. She reported that she normally enjoyed her work, despite the long commutes and dealing with her employer.
So before you proceed, did you get the promotion?
No, it turns out he did not keep his pledge, so he's still with the company.
My irritation mounted. So you went forward with it, but you didn't even receive the promotion.
Helen was extremely distraught, and tears streamed down her face. I would never have agreed if I had suspected he would break his word.
Now allow me to continue my narrative.
She described how her employer pressed her daily at work, despite her reservations about her marriage. Around 6 weeks ago, she hesitantly agreed. They made up a tale about attending a management meeting in Denver, and decided to meet over the weekend.
Helen mentioned that she hoped for a promotion and was reluctant to go.
I remarked that it was unique, because she had never been on an overnight work trip during her tenure at the company. Helen said, "You dropped me off at the airport, and then I met David in the departure lounge. We had a wonderful journey in business class, but he couldn't get his hands off me. He reserved a room with a king-sized bed, and the situation deteriorated as soon as we closed the door on Thursday afternoon."
So what happened? We spent the day exploring and ate dinner. After a quick nap, things got intimate.
However, the alarm company called, so I was on my way downstairs. When you called, the alarm was so loud that I couldn't hear you, and I prayed you hadn't noticed David's hand.
I now realize you did.
Your face was as pale as a ghost, and with the alarm going off, I realized something was wrong. I ran to the airport and caught the first flight home. Helen confessed her affair with David, describing how he made her feel young and desirable, in sharp contrast to feeling ancient. She expressed tremendous grief for breaching our marriage vows and the particular closeness we had, admitting you lied and deceived me, something unparalleled in our marriage's history. Despite her sorrow, my observations of her frequent work trips following my hospital discharge led me to suspect continuous connection with David. Helen affirms David's desire on meetings, but denies any recent intimacy, promising to turn down his advances despite his memories of their time in Denver and attempts to meet again in Dallas. My faith in Helen was disturbed, particularly when I remembered her recent changes in appearance and conduct since last January, which led me to suspect the affair began shortly after the Christmas party. Her reticence in response to my accusations validated my concerns about an ongoing affair. I suggested that she postpone her business visits until we could reassess our situation and asked about her capacity to access work remotely, as well as if she wished to leave or stay with David. Helen's assurances of her dedication to our marriage and willingness to leave her job if necessary were overpowered by my anxieties about her being influenced by David and the potential health dangers of their affair. Despite her amazement at the potential of an STD and her promise of no intimacy since my heart attack, I questioned her loyalty, prompting a further investigation into her sentiments of regret, whether they were caused by being discovered or the act of infidelity itself. Helen's revelation that she preferred to keep the affair private in order to maintain the appearance of a flawless marriage was worrisome. I suggested she stay with one of our children and think on her actions, emphasizing the repercussions of her decisions. As she packed and departed, I fled to my computer room, leaving to consider the future of our marriage. The disclosures have really affected me, as has the need for time and space to digest the betrayal and its consequences for our relationship. In my line of business, we have access to a variety of resources, including a close buddy who works as a private investigator. I contacted and explained the issue, requesting that he acquire as much information as possible about Helen's supervisor, David Jenkins. Additionally, I asked him to keep a watch on Helen for a few days. I figured she would stay with one of our children, but I wasn't sure how much she could be trusted. I did not want to kick her out. I wanted to forgive, but her final remark was disturbing. She appeared regretful, but only because I had found her affair, implying she might have continued it otherwise. I waited approximately an hour before using a phone tracking app to find Helen's position. She was at our oldest daughter's place. So I notified the private investigator that he had a team of inconspicuous personnel available to observe Helen without drawing notice. I also contacted our family lawyer, Ted Brown, who promised to come over after concluding his duties for the day. Ted and I frequently played golf together and gossiped over a six-pack. I had a cold one waiting for him when he came. I mentioned that I needed advice and told the whole scenario. Ted quickly pointed out several potential felonies. First, Helen's supervisor, David, used force and extortion to get sex from her in exchange for a promotion. He assumed that a corporation as large as hers would have a strong code of conduct for employees, possibly including a morality clause. Finally, he mentioned that Helen had been harassed. Furthermore, given the lack of actual evidence, it came down to Helen's word against Jenkins. So I found myself exactly back where I began. I asked Ted for a few days to work on it and promised to get back to him. Ted emphasized the significance of gathering evidence to support our argument, but he also reinforced the importance of following right procedures. He asked about the possibilities of divorcing Helen. I responded that today was not the day, maybe tomorrow, but not now. After a day of anxiety and unresolved worries about Helen's integrity, I was unable to rest. My thoughts was filled with worries about her honesty over the affair she had. Despite my attempts to sleep, the gravity of the situation kept me awake, thinking what actions to take next in our relationship. Helen appeared to be solely responsible for deciding how to continue, but I couldn't shake the nagging sensation that she hadn't been completely honest about the degree of her infidelity. The scenario became more complicated the next morning, when I received an early phone call from our daughter, who was clearly concerned about her mother's condition. She told me Helen had been inconsolable the night before, a clear indication of her inner struggle. Despite my express instructions to Helen not to go to work, she had hinted about doing so to our daughter before deciding against it, and staying at a friend's apartment instead. Compelled by a sense of urgency, I contacted Helen to learn more about her current state of mind and goals. Helen discussed her difficulties and indecision, recalling her departure from our friend Karen's home without a clear destination in mind. Sensing an opportunity for reconciliation or closure, I invited her to return home, which she accepted. However, the possibility that she would re-engage in her affair encouraged me to hire a private investigator for an update on her activity. The investigator confirmed that Helen looked to be heading towards David Jenkins' flat before changing route. This revelation added another degree of complication to the problem, while I waited for a complete report that would presumably distinguish between fact and fantasy.
When Helen returned home, we had an open chat regarding the previous events and her sentiments.
She expressed profound regret for her behavior and the deception that preceded her romance, seeking forgiveness and underlining her wish to move forward from this episode.
Helen tried to reassure me of her dedication to our marriage by detailing her plans to confront David for closure.
Despite the guarantees, he denied having any additional inappropriate contact with him. I found myself grappling with insecurity and envy, emotions unfamiliar to me prior to this journey.
Helen's attempt to physically console me provided short relief.
However, the conversation left unanswered questions regarding trust and the future of our partnership. We sought refuge in one another's presence. We went to bed to get away from the exhaustion and emotional pressure that had wrapped us both as a result of Helen's affair and its repercussions. I felt myself unsure about how to proceed. One evening, when we were apparently watching television, I took advantage of a moment of silence to bring up a matter that had been on my mind for some time. I told Helen about my plans to sue her company and David Jenkins, hoping she'd share my resolution or at least comprehend my point of view.
Helen's attitude surprised me. She expressed concern rather than support.
She indicated a desire for the entire situation to be settled peacefully without causing further harm to her firm or anyone involved. Her stance perplexed me, especially since she had earlier expressed a desire to leave her work and said that her relationship with Jenkins was over. Her guarded behavior made me worry if she had deeper feelings for Jenkins than she had previously revealed. In an effort to clarify the gravity of Jenkins's actions and the pattern of his behavior, I presented Helen with proof obtained from a private investigator. The documents emphasized Jenkins's questionable past, including a forced resignation from a former employment in Atlanta owing to harassment charges and a history of rape during his college days. These discoveries were intended to highlight the gravity of Jenkins's character and deeds, undermining Helen's apparent protective position toward him.
Helen's reaction to this confrontation was immediate and packed with emotion.
She quickly interrupted our chat, indicating that I should take whatever legal action I saw necessary, and then sequestered herself in the guest bedroom. Her reply prompted me to reflect on the intricacy of her emotions and the possible consequences for our relationship. The night ended in an uneasy quiet, as Helen's guarded stance toward Jenkins indicated unresolved feelings that worsened the already strained dynamics of our reconciliation. Another night of uneasy sleep ensued, as it seems that every time we got closer to honesty and eventual reconciliation, Helen presented new challenges. The next morning, I found myself back in the kitchen as she arrived.
"Good morning, do you want some breakfast?"
"No, thanks.
I'm going out for a few hours. I will be back before noon."
She departed without kissing or expressing love. I was positive she had communicated with Jenkins, most likely by text messages all night. I felt like we were drifting further apart.
And deep down, I had a growing suspicion that reconciliation was unlikely.
Helen left for 2 hours, and before she returned, the PI contacted me, and she met Jenkins at Starbucks on 3rd Street. They had coffee and spoke for more than an hour before parting ways. She kissed him goodbye.
That was all I needed to make a decision.
Helen arrived at midday, found me in the kitchen, and made herself a cup of coffee.
"Helen, did you not have enough coffee at Starbucks? Did you follow me?"
"No, one of my customers works there and seen you with Jenkins."
"Apparently, you were extremely comfortable with him."
"Yes, I've met him. And as I mentioned yesterday, I was attempting to obtain closure."
"Kissing a guy is also an option. Is this part of getting closure?" "Helen, pack your things and leave. I'm tired of your lies and deception. Go to Jenkins for all I care. We're done."
"I know you are still looking for methods to visit him and prolong your affair.
How do you tell your wife of many years that your marriage has become a fake and must end? How can you give up after so many years of love and companionship?"
I remained in the kitchen as she packed and left the house. Later, I received a call from the private investigator, verifying that Helen was at her lover's place. I thanked him for the information and informed him that I no longer wanted his services.
The next day was frantic.
I contacted my lawyer and informed him that I intended to serve Helen with divorce papers as soon as possible, preferably at her lover's flat. I separated all of our bank accounts and canceled our joint credit cards, erasing her name from all we owned together. The only thing I did not cancel was her cell phone. I decided to keep her on my account for a while in the afternoon after much thought. I called my lawyer friend, Ted, and asked him to file lawsuits against both the pharmaceutical firm and David Jenkins. I hoped to suit them both at the same time. The corporation for allowing its management to blackmail a subordinate employee into an intimate scenario, resulting in a failed marriage.
Jenkins was sued for extorting a lower employee and harassment.
I wanted him to be held accountable for destroying my marriage, even though Helen shared blame. I saw that the case might be weak without substantial evidence, but it would bring unwanted attention to him and the company he represented. Ted had previously completed the majority of the necessary documentation for these lawsuits before taking legal action against Jenkins or the pharmaceutical manufacturer. It was essential to file an administrative charge with the Federal Equal Opportunity Commission, EEOC. This was regular procedure and the first step in handling any harassment case.
Helen called that same day.
Jenkins was served, and her demeanor was immediately aggressive. "Ed, why did you do this? David could lose his work, and his chances of advancement will be gone.
Helen, why do you care about his fate? You promised me that you had resolved your issues with him. By the way, where are you staying? Karen indicated that you weren't with her. Have you moved in with Jenkins?
I have no reservations about jeopardizing his job, just as he has damaged our marriage."
Is your friend a male or a female? Your action is so unlike you.
I've never had my marriage fall apart before, and I believe you played a large role in it.
I ended the call the next day.
An off-duty sheriff's deputy found Helen at Jenkins' apartment and served her with the divorce papers that evening. She called back, this time in tears. "Ed, how could you serve me like that? I believed our marriage meant more to you, and I hoped we could save it. We had a great marriage, until the dude seduced you. I felt like I didn't mean much to you within recent months. I knew something was wrong when you colored your hair, but I absolutely trusted you and never looked into it more. Let us see how long Jenkins keeps you around.
And I understand you've moved in with him. Have you forgotten? He's 15 years younger than you. You're his current fling. And when he gets tired of you, he will most certainly abandon you. I am dividing everything evenly, including our children's debts.
I checked our outstanding balance today, and it is little around $400,000. That implies we each have to repay a loan of approximately $200,000. I'm not sure how you'll support your sweetheart if he loses his work while still paying off the loan.
But it is your problem. Get yourself a lawyer. And I warn you that if you oppose the divorce, I will be brutal. I have videos that I will share with everyone we know."
In truth, I did not have any such movies, but she was unaware of this. The next day, I officially resigned from my position in the insurance business. I didn't want to have a job or an income while the divorce was pending. The insurance company was family-owned, so I may possibly return in the future, due of a recent illness. I had worked very little in the previous year, and my doctor advised me to take it easy for the next 6 months.
Helen's behavior left me very perplexed.
Helen appeared to be divided between preserving our marriage and maintaining her contact with her paramour. Ted called me to tell me that the pharmaceutical corporation had reacted to our case. They were caught aback by the legal action and suspended Jenkins pending an internal investigation.
Ted had inquired about the number of harassment complaints required for Jenkins' termination.
Surprisingly, the Dallas office was ignorant of the circumstances that prompted Jenkins to leave the Atlanta office. Our action had obviously piqued their interest, and they signaled a willingness to settle outside of court.
I asked Ted if we could postpone the settlement until after the divorce.
Helen attempted to phone me, but I declined, which must have irritated her since she made numerous attempts throughout the day. It seems like she was beginning to feel the consequences of her actions, and things were only going to get more difficult.
Helen arrived to the house the next day and said, "Ed, I need to talk to you, and you haven't been answering my calls."
"No, I did not respond because I had nothing to say to you. You've already decided which bed you want to lie in, and it's not mine. Please do not be like this, Helen.
I believe I have made myself very clear. And to be honest, I am tired of repeating myself. I refuse to be made a fool of.
You cheated more than once, not just for the weekend, but for months. Then you tried to mislead your way out of it. You have hurt me in ways that I cannot express. And given my condition, now is not the time in my life to cope with all of this. You forgot about the portion of our wedding vows that says, in sickness and in health, you are no longer part of my life. You've lied to me since Christmas and had a secret affair with your employer. I'm confident your company will fire him soon, and most likely you as well. You have ruined my life, so I'm going to do all in my power to ruin yours.
Jenkins is as well. David was terminated this morning, and I am on administrative leave. He has no savings and is really distressed. That brightens my day.
I imagine you'll both be ejected out of his posh flat soon.
Remember that you have a $200,000 debt to pay, in addition to your auto loan and insurance.
By the way, you are more than 10 days late on your car insurance premium, which will be canceled today per the terms of the policy.
You'd better find a new insurance broker. You've always taken care of that. So why are you ending my policy? You really don't understand, do you? There is no more us or me in your life. I will no longer behave in your best interest. You have a new man in your life who can do that. But I suppose he can only be a decent lover. All of this is a result of your own actions. So if you're going to blame someone, blame yourself. Now, unless you have anything specific to discuss, you should depart. I was reluctant to move, but the necessity of dividing our possessions pushed my hand. I couldn't afford to buy Helen's share of the house, so I listed it for sale, and it quickly sold. Because there were no outstanding debts on the property, the proceeds from the sale would significantly help to pay off my share of the debt. I found an apartment near the hospital that was within my budget. Fortunately, one of the best heart hospitals in the southern region was now only a few blocks away. I packed up all of my stuff from our previous home without informing Helen, who was accountable for all that had happened. When my relocation was complete, I informed Helen that she had a limited time to retrieve her stuff from the house before I donated everything to Goodwill. I made it clear that I had already vacated the house, which now had a new owner, and she had just 2 weeks to collect what she wanted to keep. Helen called me again, shouting into the phone, accusing me of taking all the valuable items from the house and removing things she wanted. I responded that I had been generous, given that when she moved out of the house and into her lover's arms, she forfeited her right to anything acquired during our marriage. Weeks passed with no further communication. The sale of the house was completed, and we divided the proceeds. I used my share to pay off my portion of the debt. Being debt-free gave me a sense of relief as I despised owing money to anyone. Then Ted, my lawyer, informed me that Helen was contesting the divorce terms related to the distribution of our assets. We had initially divided everything equally, and I had nothing to hide. So I wondered what was at issue. The judge presiding over the case, an elderly gentleman with years of experience in divorce proceedings, inquired about the nature of the dispute, since the assets had already been divided. Suddenly it became evident that Helen sought a 50% stake in the insurance business. My lawyer and I conferred briefly and then addressed the judge, stating, "Your Honor, my client does not own the insurance business. It belongs to his father due to severe health issues. My client has had to resign, and he is no longer associated with the company." Helen's lawyer requested proof, prompting my father in his 80s to stand and ask for permission to speak, which the judge granted. He affirmed I am Ed's father, and what his lawyer stated is accurate. I still own the insurance business, and it will remain under my name until my passing, after which it will be passed down to my son. I glanced at Helen, and if expressions could narrate tales, hers would convey shame. She whispered something to her lawyer, who then stood and declared that there would be no further contestation of the divorce. The judge subsequently finalized the divorce. I was now a free man. But it saddened me deeply because Helen and I had once shared a wonderful marriage that was before that despicable Jenkins entered the picture. He was undoubtedly a homewrecker. My son accompanied me to the proceedings and requested that I wait, as he needed to use the restroom. Helen approached me, a move that I'm sure required some courage. "Ed, I'm sorry that our marriage has come to this,
and I apologize for lying to you and for being unfaithful.
Everything you predicted has sadly come true. David left me for a younger woman.
His life was in ruins after losing his job, and he squandered a significant portion of the house proceeds.
Now I'm drowning in debt with a poorly paying job.
I hope this brings you satisfaction.
Well, you brought all of this upon yourself. My actions were merely reactions to yours. I hope you can understand that. Can we still be friends?
The pharmaceutical company eventually settled out of court. I was $500,000 richer. Perhaps I could have held out for more, but at that point I simply wanted to put everything behind me.
It wasn't about the money. It was about seeking justice.
Helen struggled to find a job that paid as well as her previous one and remained in debt.
Life presented one challenge after another for her.
My children stayed in touch and offered assistance in various ways, but even they found it difficult to forgive her, according to them. She rarely dated and appeared older than her age. I felt sympathy for her, but she had made her own choices, and now she had to face the consequences. Jenkins experienced a difficult life as his past continued to haunt him whenever he applied for a job. He had no money to his name and declared bankruptcy to avoid a contentious legal battle with me. His car was repossessed and he ended up working at Lowe's and residing in a modest apartment. The lavish lifestyle he once enjoyed was a thing of the past. As for me, I spent an additional 4 months completing my rehabilitation before returning to the insurance business on a part-time basis, eventually transitioning to full-time to reduce the tax burden. My father initiated the process of transferring 10% of the ownership to me each year.
I occasionally dated, but I hadn't met the right woman yet. For some reason, I compared every woman I met to the old Helen.
I encountered her at one of my children's homes during Christmas, and she appeared far from her best.
Here is the next story.
My wife of 7 years, 29, had cheated on me with one of her close acquaintances in mid-July. I discovered text messages between them after becoming suspicious and examining her phone. The texts I saw were from the day after D-Day, discussing how fantastic their sex was. I love, enjoy, and even discuss a minor dispute we had in which she recalled events, I stated. They both chuckled about it. I attempted to explain that we might be entering a new stage of marriage in which we were comfortable and complacent.
It might feel a little boring, but maybe that's just how things get.
Once you're married for more than a few years, but she was convinced it was incorrect and that we had drifted away despite spending our days together full of pleasant talk and sex.
She is not aware of this. I understand. I've spoken with a lawyer and have divorce paperwork in the process. This is the second time she's done it. She first cheated on me while we were dating. We had a 6-month split. Works out. They got back together and later married. On the rare times that we discussed her previous infidelity, I told her that if she did it again, we would be over. We've been okay for 6 years without any problems. About a year ago, she became colder and refused to accept my adoration. She did not hug me back at all. I suppose this distancing culminated in her affair. Now, fast forward to today. I've known for 3 weeks and am waiting for documentation to face her. At first, she was definitely uninterested in me. But this week, she seemed to be feeling more bad about her behavior and showing a little more interest in me. She has been trying to do what she can to make up for her actions in her own way, all without Miss ever talking about it. Like washing dishes, cleaning and cooking, all while refusing any help. It's as if she is punishing herself. In my mind, she has betrayed me entirely and I can no longer trust her. She has caused me so much anguish and cannot possibly love me if she can do all of this. Financially, we have been okay, but we have struggled a bit because she didn't want to work. She finally began working and has done so for a year. But it's a minimum wage, part-time job that barely pays her bills. I feel like I have to carry all of the weight and she is not really my equal. At the same time, I still care about her value, the life we built, and will worry about what will happen to her. I believe she may easily fall into a profound despair. There is only one way forward, and it is by force. But I'm afraid about how she'll react, and it will be difficult to resist taking her back. I almost want she could depart joyfully with her new person.
I know I need to divorce her, but I'm not looking forward to the grief, loneliness, and everything else.
I can't even predict. How do I do this? Update.
I first believed she started cheating in July, but nope. Her affair began in May, but she also had another affair from March to May, this time with a heroin addict. So the grand total of cheating is 4 guys.
Moving on to the current AP.
First, she established his support by lying to him about our relationship. She told him I insulted her and was always me, which is completely false. This provided him permission to manipulate her, telling her she deserved better, that I am a piece of junk and a child, all kinds of things.
He truly considered himself a relationship coach.
He would listen to her concerns about me and explain how I would respond, why I did what I did, and what she was upset about.
I didn't realize they bothered her. She never informed me. Remember? He's never met me.
Yet he thinks he can predict all my behavior. This individual takes great delight in his ability to control others.
He bragged about it. He believes he's some relationship expert, which is insane.
He's a church minister. He brags about how he helps an adolescent group become closer to God. In one case, he boasted about how he assisted a teenager in breaking up with his girlfriend and then did an excellent job of consoling the girlfriend who was then suicidal. So she has fallen for this good guy act.
Complete manipulation. Hook, line, sinker.
He refers to her living with me as a jail and calls me the ass, despite the fact that I am the one who embraces her, pays her bills, and welcomes her cheerfully when she returns home from work.
Who values her more than anyone else? I must come clean.
I place a high priority on self-improvement and feel that everyone should constantly strive to better. However, she has not improved at all in the last 10 years.
She's overweight, dropped out of college, and is working a minimum wage part-time job.
Years ago, I attempted to help her develop. I asked her to join me at the gym for any sport, but she refused. She was unemployed for 4 years while I paid her student loans and alarmingly high credit debt. I asked her to look for a job every week, but she never did. I asked her to go to school, telling her I would pay and that she could study whatever she chose.
She never went.
After a few years of requesting her to work on herself, I slowly got frustrated to the point where I began criticizing her for her lack of effort.
Sometimes I was so irritated with it that I became harsh. This was extremely wrong of me.
I ceased all of my criticism a few years ago before her affair began. She genuinely loved me, even when I was still primarily criticizing her. But now that I am not, she no longer loves me. My criticism did not come from a position of hatred. I feel that marriage is an equal partnership and that she should be treated equally with me. I tried to assist her achieve equality in our relationship, but she declined. I believe we are supposed to be able to lean on one another for support, yet she relied on me only now that I'm in school and require assistance. She has entirely come apart, resulting in affairs and animosity, all without discussing her problems with me. If she has a problem with me, she refers it to AP, who tells her what I will most likely say. She told her mother about her affair and attempted to explain how horrible I was to her, but she did not believe my wife. My wife became enraged that her mother wasn't on her side and complained to AP, who promptly took her side and justified her mother's position. My wife is looking for someone who will agree with her and justify the terrible things she has done to me. She feels ashamed and hides it by convincing herself that I am a nasty person. She has very low emotional intelligence and pays little attention to me, cannot read me at all. However, she is an open book to me. Her mental image of myself does not reflect who I truly am. She is hooked on who I used to be, but I've changed a lot in the last several years.
But she didn't notice.
She told AP that if she left me she would have nothing. I'm a busy student, so I don't have as much time to devote to her as I once did. I believe this is what started the cheating. If anything else challenges her as a priority for me, she becomes extremely unstable.
So here we are now. I've seen everything she owns.
She still has no idea. I am aware of her horrible actions. I have divorce papers coming Wednesday and I'm counting the minutes until I can blow up her world. I was going to do things properly, but now that I've read it, all I want to do is go scorched earth. I want her to truly comprehend the gravity of her heinous behavior. I mentioned last week that I wasn't looking forward to it, but I am today. I can't wait to read her texts with AP back to her and demonstrate how messed up it is. I can't wait to point out the blatant manipulations AP has finished with her. I'm asking for help with my predicament and potential answers to a dilemma. We have a dog that she loves like a child and will fight tooth and nail for. But neither of us has the money to fight it out in court. How can I keep my dog without spending $30,000 on court and lawyer fees? Yes, she is crazy enough to do that over the dog. Update. I guess I got ahead of myself with that 3-day countdown. The papers took more longer than I was informed. Well, now I have them and all the pieces are starting to fall into place. I aim to serve her a week from today, but as we all know, things may not go exactly as planned. My soon-to-be ex-wife is still unaware that I found her cheating over a month ago and have been organizing a separation. I've been living with her and acting as if nothing is wrong the whole time, and she is absolutely unaware. It has actually been tough to avoid catching her. I've seen her texting him more than 15 times by this point. She has never changed her password and continues to refer to him as if he were a friend. It's difficult to keep my calm while she's talking about him, but I do what I have to. Sometimes I feel like secretly plotting against her to pull the rug out from under her was wrong. Not wrong to do to her, but immoral for me to do something like this, regardless of who was on the receiving end. Some days it's tough to disguise my rage at her for what she'd done. Some days it feels like I'm living in a bizarre dream. We had a big fight about our relationship, and I was able to call her out on a lot of her bad decisions without giving up the fact that I know everything. I told her she did not love me. And then I haven't been important to her for a long time. That was a week ago, and I have been using that major battle as a cover. So now if I am angry or cold, she thinks it is because of that big fight we had. I was the only thing holding our relationship together. And now that I know about her infidelity, I have no reason to put in any effort. As a result, our relationship has drastically fallen apart. I explained all this to her, and it seems she realized it was true. Since that fight, she seems to have chosen me over her affair partner. This is obviously not how it should be. She chose me when we got married, so there should not even be a choice to be made here. She has been putting more effort into showing me attention and communicating. She wants to make things work from my perspective. Way too little. Way too late. There is nothing she can do to change the situation she put us in. She made her bed now, and now she has to lie in it. This infidelity began because her position as the absolute center of my life was challenged, and her large amount of attention for me from which she derives happiness was challenged. So she sought attention elsewhere, rather than communicating with me. What I find truly hilarious is that the men she has chosen to have affairs with don't treat her as number one either. One guy regularly ignored her for weeks. The other guy has an ex-wife and child that he even told her would always be his priority. He's even been seen around town with other girls. Remember that this guy is a youth pastor too, so she is not even number two to this guy, even though they tell each other how special their relationship is. He even told her he plans on moving to co-parent his kid with his ex. But none of that matters to her. How is she okay with that but can't handle me focusing on school? So here is the update. As of today, as a response to her big fight, she decided she will be staying with her parents for a few weeks to clear her head. This makes things way easier for me as I don't have to worry about her refusing to leave or attacking me or any other crazy thing she may do. She already has plans to come back. Little does she know I have arranged for her to get divorce papers served the day after she gets to her parents' place. So I have a week to go and it can't be over soon enough. As much as I want it to be over, it means this is also the last week I will ever see my dog. It really sucks. You're super attached, but I have no hope of keeping him. There are some special circumstances that I don't want to explain, but it's basically impossible for me to keep him. I am going to miss him a lot. Update, I did it. She got blindsided and was completely devastated by the news. I discovered my wife's multiple affairs over a month ago, but I didn't confront her. Instead, I carefully and secretly planned out how to remove her from my life with as few problems for me as possible. I have been acting totally normal for the last month, being cheerful, buying her things, having conversations, etc.
It has been a long month. I wanted to call her out so badly.
It was on the tip of my tongue, but I never did because it would make things difficult for me. So I hit the gym, lawyered up, got papers, drafted, collected over 450 pages of explicit messaging, set up a new debit account ready to transfer funds, and convinced her to take some time at her parents' house.
Everything, and I mean everything, went to plan.
I even predicted the exact reaction she and her family would have. I froze her credit card with my name and transferred half our money to the new debit account. As soon as I heard the papers were delivered, she left yesterday with her mom. I just gave her a hug and said, "Take care of yourself." She said, "Okay." This morning, a process server arrived at her parents' home and delivered the papers. She had no idea I knew what she was doing.
Her parents claimed they had no idea about anything.
She got completely blindsided and was apparently hysterical. I say hysterical because, get this, I still haven't talked to her. Yup, her mom called me and I had to explain the situation to her. Just higher level details though. Even in a situation like this, her mom is trying to solve the problems for her.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I can't even discuss my personal relationship with my wife privately. This is a 29-year-old woman who is letting her mom mediate and talk on her behalf. Although I did have a good relationship with my MIL, and she did push my wife to work on her marriage, I find this so beyond idiotic of them both. I handled everything with tact, kept my composure, and didn't let my emotions do the talking. I had to really bite my tongue, throw my entire home. In discussing getting her wife's things was using language that implied I was responsible for getting her stuff back to her. She suggested I pack the stuff, rent a car, and drive the 4 hours to deliver it. The stuff in question is mostly t-shirts and lotion bottles. So I told her it is not my responsibility. She comes back with, "If you respect me so much as you say, you would do me the favor." Man, not only is she getting way too far into her business, but she is going to try to manipulate me. I just said that had nothing to do with this, and that I could say the same thing to her. I said, "Please don't attempt to manipulate me again. I'm already giving you lots of respect here by keeping a lot of issues off the table. I can decide to bring it to court and prove infidelity, costing us both a lot of money. I can claim theft of our dog. I can give evidence to her APS employer, which will get him fired from his youth pastor position and others. I'm trying to make this as affordable and simple as possible." She backed down and will be picking up the stuff. Now I have to wait for them to make a move. I'm guessing they are trying to hire a lawyer and refute the dog ownership, which is the biggest fighting point yet, oddly not brought up. Her mom is probably comforting her and telling her that her multiple illicit affairs are okay, that dragging her husband through the mud, talking crap about him every chance she gets, even while still coming home at night and expecting love and affection, is all okay. Someone in another thread mentioned she might have borderline personality disorder based on some stuff she said. I think she does. Is it odd that they are so worried about such insignificant belongings right now? Yes. Is it odd my wife is not handling this with me? Yes. Should I refuse to deal with her mom? Maybe. Is my wife mentally unstable? Yes, so. Do I let them come get her stuff? I don't really want to deal with that. I hate all of this. I am being straightforward and honest with them and they are trying to pull this stunt on me. I hate that I might have to resort to twisting. I hate that I have always been a meal ticket for my wife and just the sucker paying her bills to her parents. I hate that. I can't even discuss this with her civilly and rationally like an adult. I hate that her mom lied to me about not knowing her daughter had affairs. I hate that they are so confused by my actions. I hate that I instinctively think of her and want to ask her what kind she wants when I see ice cream at the store, but most of all I hate how even now I am the bad guy to them. Update. I noticed a few messages asking how everything eventually turned out with my situation in a nutshell. Good. It was a clean break. Absolutely. Zero communication. No issues whatsoever.
She moved on. I moved on. That's it.
It was essentially a very expensive breakup. The single thing that sucks is I had to give up my dog, but looks like he is still living happily with her. After the divorce, I graduated, got a job, and moved. She moved her parents' guest bedroom and never moved out. She got a low-wage job and hasn't done a thing since she's dating someone.
But that's all I know because she has me blocked even though I've never said a thing.
I dated a couple of girls and found one that was extremely special and showed me love I didn't know existed. Then I proceeded to lose her.
So I'm single and doing extremely well with dating.
Literally every single woman I met has been leagues better than my ex-wife.
But I would like to be back with my recent girlfriend again.
Such is life. I got a great job doing very well financially while she is 30-something living with her retired parents.
So I guess I came out on top and relatively unscathed.
4 years later.
Update. So it has been 4 years since I found out about my ex-wife having multiple secret affairs.
She was able to do so without much suspicion because I gave her the respect of privacy and was busy working through a degree at an Ivy League school while also paying all the rent, bills, food, and both of our student loans. A lot of the confusion and anger I faced, as most people posting here probably feel, currently has cleared. In fact, I don't care about my ex-wife at all. I care more about more recent exes who showed me more kindness. But it is still a mystery to me why someone would cheat when they are with someone that is out of their league. This is not something I knew at the time but has been repeatedly pointed out to me in countless ways and sometimes directly by others. Why she cheated will probably always be a mystery. I am well above average looking. I was always home at night spending my free time with her. I am highly educated, physically fit, have no mental illness, decently charismatic, and set up for a very good career.
We got along well and had a lot in common.
On paper, it seemed like many boxes were checked. Obviously, there are many intangible aspects that determine why someone cheats, but I occasionally dwell on this question left to myself and move on with my day. I have since dated a handful of women, all lovely and interesting people who have helped me fully understand just how crap my ex-wife was as a person, since she was one of the first people I dated in high school.
I didn't have many comparisons.
All those affair partners she was hopelessly confessing her love for are long gone. So here I am 4 years later, leaving my past long behind.
I have rebuilt my life from the ground up.
Next week is my 2-year anniversary with my lovely, caring, intelligent, and beautiful girlfriend. She is the kind of partner I always deserved, and I make sure she knows how much I appreciate her every day. She's even got a job that she's good at and pays her well.
We have an apartment next to the river and a goofy dog. My career and finances are strong and well within upper middle class territory. We have no debt, no alimony, and no contact. On a few occasions I've thought about her and realized I don't hate her anymore.
I wish neither harm nor goodwill towards her.
I just don't care.
Okay, well, maybe. I hope things generally don't work out for her. I can now say that I am much happier and better off by my decision to divorce my ex-wife. So there is hope for all of you out there that are currently knee-deep and trying to make it through the day. Have faith in yourself to come out the other side as a wiser and stronger person.
Wow!
I am pleased that you made the move and have not let any of it deter you from having the best life. Your ex was a fool and will regret the choices they've made.
You also got out before having children.
The latter takes complication to a whole new level. But I am so pleased that you got out before that point. The best revenge is a life well lived. Cheers, up! Live long and prosper. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you liked the story, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.